For some time now, the Mahjong community has been considering the element of luck in the game we love. Luck is something that players have absolutely no control over, and yet it impacts the outcome of the game. I'm sure we've all experienced luck not being on our side and the frustration this can lead to. So, a group of experienced Mahjong enthusiasts came together to mull this over and to see if they could solve this issue. The aim was to find fun and innovative ways to play American Mah Jongg that are less dependent on luck and, therefore, more skill-based with increased strategic possibilities. We'd like to share some very exciting news. The group believes they have solved this Mahjong conundrum and are offering a brand new version of American Mah Jongg to the community. This alternative to the main National Mahjong League game is called MAHJ-X, and we believe it will appeal to those players who are open to trying something new and who enjoy a challenge. This video will provide an introduction to MAHJ-X, highlighting some of the new and innovative rules and the rationale for each. For more details, check out the MAHJ-X website or Facebook group. First, everyone gets a joker at the beginning. The rationale is that when each player starts with a joker, it removes some of the luck factor and opens up more possibilities for each player. This is important considering the extended role of the joker in MAHJ-X. We'll discuss this more later. The second rule change is that all players start with 13 tiles. The idea is that starting with 13 tiles removes the majority of East's advantage. Another important change is that there are 2 mandatory Charlestons, but all left and right passes can be blind, and the across passes are negotiated like the optional pass. Here's why we think this benefits players. If a player needs to improve their hand, they can pass as many tiles as they need, up to 3 tiles. If a player has many tiles towards Mahjong, they can choose to pass fewer tiles. A mandatory second Charleston results in more opportunity for all players to strengthen their hand, whatever position they find themselves in after the first Charleston. This is the best of both worlds, where each player has the opportunity to maximize the benefits of the Charleston to progress their hand, without having to give up any tiles. Here's an example of this rule in action. Here's my rack at the end of the first Charleston. Consecutive run line 5A seems like an obvious choice. I pass the 7 crack, red and 8 dot on the second left, and receive a 4 bam, 3 dot and north. I now have only 2 tiles to pass in the second across. Ordinarily, 3 tiles would be passed and I would have to give up a needed tile from my hand. In MAHJ-X, as the across pass is negotiated, I can choose to pass just 2 tiles, the 3 dot and north. Jokers play an important role in MAHJ-X and there are several rules that increase its strategic use. The first one is the reverse joker swap, which means you can trade a joker for a tile in an exposure. This allows players needing a tile for a single or pair to obtain that tile by sacrificing a joker. This also allows the player to continue building their hand when it would otherwise have been considered dead. Jokers can also be used to prevent an opponent from achieving a jokerless hand. Here's an example. In this game, I am aiming for line 2 of the 2023 section of the card. I have quite a few tiles towards this hand. Unfortunately, I am missing my soap, and the player to my right has just exposed a pung of soaps. Since a soap has also been discarded, this hand would be unachievable in the standard American Mah Jongg game. Ordinarily, I would need to switch to another hand, or play defensively. However, in MAHJ-X, I can announce that I'm swapping one of my jokers for a soap in my opponent's exposure. Now, I have my soap for the 2023 part of the hand. I can discard the green dragon, and I'm ready to win on a 2 bam, 3 dot or joker. Another interesting joker-related rule is that discarding a joker gets player another pick from the wall. This opens up strategic possibilities. Do I discard my joker to get another pick, or do I hold on to it to potentially swap for a tile in another player's exposure? Or, should I use it to prevent another player's hand from being jokerless, or keep it as a safe discard at the end of the game? A joker can also be discarded towards the end of the game to reduce the number of picks other players receive. The next important rule change is the ability to update exposures. In other words, you can add or remove tiles from an existing exposure. This can be used as a strategic move by the player to switch between hands or to confuse opponents regarding a player's intended hand. For example, a player calls a discard and exposes a pung and later amends to a Kong. Additionally, this rule enables players to call a discard when they do not possess all the tiles required for a particular grouping, with the intent to amend the exposure later in the game. For example, let's say the player only has enough tiles in their hand to call for a Kong. They expose a Kong and then, during a later turn, adds a joker to make the quint they require. Here's an example of adding tiles to an exposure. Here, I am working towards Winds and Dragons, line 1b. I have exposed a pung of norths and have quite a few wind tiles towards this hand. However, I now have an extra south that I don't need, and I'm struggling to get enough easts and wests. I receive another north from the wall. Ordinarily, exposures cannot be amended once a player has discarded. In MAHJ-X, I can announce that I am amending my exposure, changing my pung to a Kong. I will use the north, but a joker could also be used for this purpose. I've switched to playing Winds and Dragons, line 1a. I am now 2 tiles closer to Mah Jongg than I would have been. I can discard the 2 crack or the green and I'm ready to call an east or a west for a pung. Here's another example of editing exposures. I am playing 2 4 6 8 line 1. I have a Kong of 2 cracks exposed and several additional tiles towards this hand. As the game progresses, I am struggling to collect more flowers. I have also received more 4 cracks and 6 cracks, which I can't use. Since MAHJ-X allows me to amend exposures, I can announce that I am changing my exposed Kong of 2 cracks to a pung. I have now switched to playing 2 4 6 8, line 3a. As you can see, I am now much closer to Mah Jongg and can discard the flower, south or 2 crack. I'm ready to call a 4 crack, 6 crack or 8 crack. The last new rule we'll discuss is the reverse consecutive run. For hands that include consecutive numbers, runs can be constructed with numbers in descending order, still following the tile pattern listed on the card. This applies to all hands in the consecutive run section, as well as any hand marked with any consecutive numbers, any run, etc. This gives players additional hand opportunities, though it requires more brain power. Also, this allows switching between hands, based on tiles received or tiles no longer available. Here's an example of this rule being put to good use. In this example, I am playing the second line in consecutive run. 3 4 5 6 in cracks. As the game progresses, I pick up another 3 crack and 5 crack. Since I already have my pungs of 3 cracks and 5 cracks, I would not be able to use these tiles. I am also behind on my 4s and 6s, I only have 2 and need 4 of each. As I'm playing MAHJ-X, I decide to reverse the run, 6 5 4 3. I am now 2 tiles closer to Mah Jongg. I discard the 8 dot or 1 bam and can call discards for the 6 cracks and 4 cracks. Finally, MAHJ-X introduces a new scoring system. MAHJ-X is based on standardized national Mah Jongg tournament rules. But it also adds several penalties for various infractions. Scores, including points for wins, bonuses, penalties for throwing winning tile and penalties for infractions, are kept on a sheet with 1 column per player, similar to a mini-golf card. At the end of the session, each column is tallied to determine the winner. Points can be converted to money if players wish. This allows the same scoring to apply to both home games and tournaments. Plus, there's just one payout for the session, rather than exchanging money after each game. Well, that's it for our quick rundown of MAHJ-X. As you can see, there are lots of new and exciting rules, resulting in more opportunities to form hands or make progress when you would otherwise have been stuck. The role of luck is reduced, and strategic thinking becomes more prominent. This leads to less frustration and more enjoyment of the game. But don't take our word for it. Give it a go with your friends, and you'll discover how much fun these new rules are. Feel free to join our Facebook group to take part in the MAHJ-X community. This is the place to ask questions and provide feedback. This is also where we make announcements related to the evolution of the game. We're so excited to share this new game with you. We hope you love it as much as we do. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on the MAHJ-X Facebook group.